Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name's Liz Lake. I'm the Development Director at the London South East Education Group. I'm here this morning working with my colleague Susie Good, and I want to welcome you to the LSEC, or the London South East Colleges Inclusive Employment event, which we are doing in partnership with the Education and Training Foundation. This is the second in the series. We did one last year. Case studies are all aimed at the arts sector and sport, but this event is for all employers across the board. We've got a packed agenda this morning. Susie, can we just go on to the next one? We have a packed agenda this morning, which culminates in a panel of experts where you will get the opportunity to ask some questions. We already have some questions that have been pre-posed, but do feel free to ask them some questions. We're going to take you through why we are here, hear from Rona, Sapsford and Giles, who work within our college, look at some of the case studies, examples that we've got, and then really look at how, if you are an employer, what steps you can make to make sure that you are truly inclusive. Okay. Next step, Susie, or next slide. Okay, so we are a bit about London South East Colleges. We are part of the London South East Education Group. We've got 7 campuses across South East London, and we also have 3 specialist centres within Bromley, Bexley and very, very recently in Lambeth, known as the Nido Rowland Centres. These are specialist SEN providers. We are working in partnership with the Education and Training Foundation, and we are what's known as a SEND Centre of Excellence spoke. Next slide, Susie. So what is today about? So a little bit about learning disabilities and employment. So 1 in 5 of the working age population are classed as disabled, but that includes anybody that declares themselves as being disabled. So that does also include physical disabilities. Today we are here mainly to talk about employing people with learning disabilities and or autism. And actually 5.1% of people with learning disabilities are in permanent employment. And actually in London, that's slightly higher, with 7% of adults with a learning disability in paid employment. But 65% of them would like a job. And the jobs that they tend to be employed in tend to be low-skilled occupations. They tend to be part-time, and there are big periods of time when they're not in work. Next slide, Susie. So, perceptions of disabled people in employment. We know that these figures are shocking, and we want to do something about this. There is a labour shortage nationally, where companies and employers are telling us that they can't recruit. And actually what this is about is it's about saying if employers tell us that if they have the right tools, it's all about confidence and improving confidence. So today in this event, we want to dispel some of the misconceptions of hiring people with disabilities. Next slide, Susie. So at LSEC, we are passionate about inclusive employment. So we have supported internship programs within LSEC, where over the last 5 to 6 years, 50% of our students have gone on to permanent or some kind of permanent paid employment. Last year, we even had some courses where 87% of that course went on to receive a permanent role. It's all of our responsibilities to make change, and using colleges such as ours to educate employers, work with employers, understand what they need. We want to really drive a change and make all employers inclusive. Next slide, Susie. So what have we done so far? Well, we're working in partnership with the Education and Training Foundation, so the ETF. We last year ran an event which was looking at our supported internship programs and looking at how we are working with employers to place students. Today is really about understanding what employers want. It's trying to dispel some of those myths and really making our employers more inclusive. We held a roundtable event with a small number of employers way back in December, and they told us what they wanted is they wanted an online toolkit where they can go, they can literally have all of their answers, all of their questions answered. They wanted to see case studies, they wanted to see examples of how other employers are doing it and those that are doing it well. They want to have access to the right organisations. So today is really about sharing what we have done so far. All of what we're going to show you today is not a finished article. All of it, will be added to over the next coming weeks, months, and hopefully years, because we really see this as a sustainable piece of work. So what I would like to do is I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Rona. Next slide, Susie, who is our assistant principal at the college, who has specific responsibility for our specialist provision. Right now.
Thank you, Liz. Yes, so my name's Rona Sapsford, and as Liz has told you, I'm the assistant principal for high needs and foundation learning at London South East Colleges. I've been here for many years, and I have seen the progression of our learners into employment grow year on year. Next slide, please. So if I was to give you a little bit of an overview about London South East Colleges, historically, there was the Bromley College, and then in 2010 we merged with Orpington College, and then later on in 2016 we merged with Bexley and Greenwich Colleges, which also included Holly Hill, which is our construction site. And then, as Liz mentioned, only on the 1st of February this year we took under our wing the Nidover Land Centre at Lambeth. Next slide. So you've heard the word Nidover Land Centres, and what does it mean? Well, it means fly the nest, and basically it's a Latin word, and we thought it was really apt because our young people will either fly the nest into independent life and fly the nest into employment. Now, we have at our Bromley Centre 160 young people who are developing independent life skills or employability skills. We have another 100 at our Bexley Centre, and we have 42 young people at our new Nidover Lands in Lambeth. Next slide. So we have two clear pathways for our young people. One is into independent life and the other is into employment, but these do overlap. So for independent life, we have our personal progression pathway programs, and these are for students with more complex needs. And what I want to focus more on today is about our employment pathway and our employability programs. And these tend to be for our students with moderate learning difficulties, some with severe. Next slide. So if we were to look at where the journey starts for our young people and how we start to develop those skills to make them ready for our employers, we look at the programs. So we start off with our Introduction to Work program, and these learners, it's taught in small groups. They can be academically at level 1, but also they can be at entry level. And these young people tend to lack the personal and social skills that they need to be able to be work ready. So that could be the fact that they lack confidence, they lack the traveling skills. So this program develops those skills so that they become more work ready. And then there is natural progression from that program onto our next program, which is the employment preparation program. Again, small groups, small numbers, so that we can really target and work with these young people, and they develop their skills by trying different tasters of employment For instance, it could be carpentry, it could be horticulture, it could be catering, it could be IT, and they all work together to develop skills across the board to help them progress to the next level. Next slide. So our next program I talk about is our vocational taster program. These young people potentially have the opportunity to move onto our wider vocational courses within the college. So they too can develop employability skills across a range of subjects, including motor vehicle, brick, carpentry, digital media, health and social care. And our aim for those learners is to progress to higher level academic programs within the wider college. However, one of our most successful opportunities for our students is our supported internship programs. Now, we have 3 supported internship programs across Bromley and Bexley that are bespoke. So we find the placements that our students want to undertake based on their aspirations and their education healthcare outcomes. We also then have 3 high needs supported internships, and these are for our students with more severe learning difficulties, and we are supported by our partners who I will talk about later on. And then this year, we're now in our 2nd year of our Project Search supported internship, which is based at the Princess Royal University Hospital in Bromley. And Liz mentioned the 87% of learners going into paid employment. In our flagship pilot year, 6 out of the 7 learners that we actually had on that programme are now in paid employment at the Princess Royal Hospital, and they have sustained that employment since July last year. Next slide. Okay, so obviously we develop lots of skills, personal and social skills, practical skills for employment, but we don't forget that our students do need to continue to develop English and maths so that they can access all aspects of their work when they join our employers. So they all undertake initial assessments when they join us. We differentiate our lessons for our learners, and where appropriate, they will take accredited learning in functional skills. And we also support them to develop their skills at home and in their spare time by using specialist software in English and maths. Okay, over to you, Teresa.
Okay, so Teresa Carroll is here today. We wouldn't be able to have put on this event without the partnership with Education and Training Foundation. So Teresa's just going to give you a little bit of background regarding ETF. Teresa.
Thanks very much, Liz and Rona. So Susie, next slide. Thank you. So I'm Teresa Carroll. I'm National Head for Inclusion at the Education and Training Foundation. I look after our Special Educational Needs and Disability Programme, support for prison education, support for the workforce around mental health and emotional well-being. And I try to bring inclusive practice across everything that the ETF does. For those of you that maybe haven't heard of us, the Education and Training Foundation is an organisation that is really about professional development for everybody that works in post-16. So we offer support for on just about every subject you can think of, from leadership management, prevent, safeguarding, T-levels, apprenticeships, you name it, we've got it. And it's for absolutely every role as well. So yeah, whether you're a teaching assistant, whether you're a chief executive, we've got something for you. We also have a professional membership body to raise the status of this very important sector called the Society for Education and Training. And that's something where people can come together. So so do take a look. The slides I think are going to be circulated, and all these slides are hyperlinked to places that you can go and find support. So Susie, next slide, please. So yes, in terms of SEND, so we've been running our programme for about 5 years now. And 4 years ago, we introduced our Centres for Excellence in SEND. This year, though, we've come together with NASON, which is the specialist body for special educational needs in the school system, and the Autism Education Trust to deliver something called Universal SEND services. And the idea is to bring professionals from both the school sector and the post-16 sector together. So from our young people and families perspective, it becomes seamless. That we are trying to sort of bridge that gap and not lose our young people. So on our website, you will find support grouped by themes. So you can, this is just a snapshot of the top of the page. So you can see from the sort of the list there how resources are grouped. And if you go in there, you'll find hundreds and hundreds of resources to support you on inclusive teaching and learning. At the bottom there's a link to the 3 Centres for Excellence in SEND. The 3 centres are run by colleges that have been recognised for outstanding inclusive practice, and they offer free support to leaders, managers and practitioners. So our centre at Weston College has the theme of people. As Liz said, inclusive practice is everybody's business. You know, it's not about just referring to a specialist team. We really want to create that inclusive world. They also have support around mental health and emotional well-being, around supporting learners and supporting staff as well. So do check that out. Our centre at Derby College has the theme of curriculum, and that is to make sure that the curriculum is always heading somewhere. We do not want our young people being placed on programmes of study just to keep them occupied and busy. We want there to be a clear line of travel and a real clear destination around their aspirations. And then our centre at City College Norwich has the theme of community, and that's recognising that our young people are going to leave us one day and go out into the wider world. And so Norwich does a lot of work around supporting employers and supporting families and the voluntary sector and universities. So there's pathways for our learners. But we came to recognise a couple of years ago that it's all very well us banging on about what a great thing it is to employ our young people. What we wanted to do was get more employers on side. So that's when we introduced the employer spokes. And so London South East Colleges are one of several organisations that have been recognised for having strong links with employers. So, and we've got the employer voice now as part of our offer. We don't want to just keep talking at employers. We want employers to advocate for us. And this session is very much part of that offer that we're delivering at the moment. So next slide, please, Susie. Right, yes, and these are 2 publications that are very short and very readable, and you can go to the links and read them online, or you can contact me and I'll send you out some hard copies, because it's quite nice to have something to read on the train and not be on your screen all the time. So the first publication, Tomorrow's Leaders Will Be on Disability. This is the story of almost 40 young people that are leading in all sorts of things, from the arts to politics, to sport, to in health, all sorts of things, and they are exceeding, they're really excelling, and they're advising others. They all happen to have a special educational need or disability. So it's flipping that idea, dispelling myths. It's sort of coming from people, from the perspective of people as whole people with lots of strengths. So these stories are really, really interesting, and you can get in touch with those young people and they will advise and they will support. They're also very inspiring for other young people to hear from as well. So do check that out. And then the second publication, Why Diversifying Your Workforce is Good for Business. This features a number of employers, mostly coming from our employer spoke work. And it's the employers telling other employers what a good thing it is to employ our young people, not just for the young people, although it's, you know, it's so beneficial. You know, if you've got a decent job, you tend to have a better chance of having a happy life, but also all the spin-offs as well, that by employing our young people, it changed the whole workforce. People gained an understanding of diversity and the benefits of inclusion. And it just sort of, it's all part of that thing about creating a fairer and more inclusive society. So it's really worth a little read. So do check that out as well. Yes, and I shall put my email in the chat as well. And Lisa, yes, I'll certainly send you the links. Okay, so, and then finally, yes, this again, if you go to the links, this, I just thought I'd pop up just some of the things that we've got coming up in March. And if you go to the links, you'll find things coming up for the rest of the year. And there's lots and lots of stuff for you to join. So, so do check this out. It's all free. If you've got relationships with schools as well, do encourage them to check this out as well, because lots of the things that we do now offer schools too through Universal Send services. And so together we can create a better world. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Teresa, and I really would urge you all to look at those leaflets and brochures that Teresa mentioned. Okay, so I want to introduce Giles. Giles is our leads on our really successful work experience programs, and Giles is going to take you through some case studies. Giles.
Well, hi everyone and good morning. First of all, I want to pick up on Teresa's comment about a better world and how to get there. And in my view, there's no better way to do that than to kind of have work experience for our learners. So next slide, please, Susie. Work experience is I think, the crowning jewel in what we deliver here at college. It helps our learners get ready for the real world by the experience that they have when they go out to work. To do that, we provide what we call meaningful work experience. It's not the work experience that you may have experienced from schools where they're going for 2 weeks. This is sustained work experience that goes over a number of days, number of weeks, and potentially years for some of our learners to get ready to learn those skills that they need for work. To start the process, the job coach team and I, we vocationally profile our learners. That means that we get to know the learners, we get to know what they want to do, we get to know what skills they have, what things they would like to aspire to in life to find employment, and also find a little bit more about from the family point of perspective about their expectations for employment and how to get there. Our main program for the employment preparation course for work experience starts in February after we've gone through that vocational profile process and we know that the learner is work ready to start a meaningful experience. And they usually start for one of the days per week that they're not at college, usually starting with about 4 hours upwards. Each learner is different. Each learner is capable of achieving different things. So we try to, as Rona mentioned before, make the experience bespoke towards what that learner requires. If our learners are successful in that placement, we move on to our supported internship, where the learners come back for their second year, where they're for 1 day at college to support their learning, but up to 4 days in the workplace or workplaces. And in recent years, we've started to develop work placements across different sectors. So our learners are developing or maximizing opportunities to get them ready for work. We have a minimum requirement for the supported internship of roughly 12 hours per week as a minimum, even though we fully support learners that are able to do a lot more than that and move forward. This continues for 32 weeks of the year, over half terms, and sometimes over kind of Easter breaks and things like that too, when maybe the college isn't open, but we expect our learners to complete that fulfillment as would any young person going into the workforce. The beauty of a supported internship is that employment can be offered at any point when the learner is work ready. And by that we mean they are as ready as any other employee entering that workforce and getting ready to take that experience going forward. We only ask that they commit their college time still to the Thursdays and continue to come in, and so we can support that process going through. The job coaches are the main kind of glue which holds everything together in this process. They are our support team that help not just the learner, but the lecturers here at college, and more importantly, the families to kind of make those right decisions about work. Supporting the employer to kind of take chances with working with someone with a learning difficulty, and to job carve particular kind of activities and tasks that each learner can develop the work skills to sustain and gain employment eventually. The reporting process for this is vital, and the job coaches are key to work with the employer and all of the education here at college to help develop those opportunities and then get that golden chance of getting that job. Next slide, please, Susie. A couple of case studies just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that we've achieved. This is one of my favorite go-to stories I bring up. There's a young man called Jonathan. Jonathan's a young man, young autistic man. You wouldn't be surprised to hear is actually mad keen on transport. He used to design his own infrastructures of cities with trains on. So when we vocationally profiled him, we eventually discussed an idea of working with FM Conway, the company that makes all our roads all good for us to drive on. So we worked with Peter Pearl. He is a managing director at FM Conway. They've never worked with anyone with a learning difficulty before. So when we approached them to say we've got a young man who would like some office work, they said, yeah, we'll try. We'll give it a go. The statements here kind of really speak wonders for how Jonathan got on. Within a few weeks, he managed to kind of induct himself into the team, and became highly popular. He gave loads of tasks to do with admin, inputting data, rerouting vehicles. The main thing that he had to do was to kind of put data from paper onto a spreadsheet, and he was able to actually find out so many different errors from the paper records over his time there, and he saved the company thousands of pounds by putting them onto a spreadsheet going forward. And Jonathan has secured employment with FM Conway. Next slide, please. Next slide, Susie.
Can you not see the next slide there?
Yep, it's just come up. Sorry, a bit of a lag there coming through.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, this is one part of our internship program is to work with big corporations and companies. So it's not just small independents, and Waitrose being one of them here in the picture, but many of our supermarkets that we use, such as our co-op partnership, Marks and Spencer's, to name a few. Our students go in here regularly each year, and the comments from our Waitrose Beckenham branch have been fantastic because they've supported us for over 20 years. For the two learners that you still see here on the left, Jace is still employed at Beckenham, where Hannah has moved to Manchester and she works with a branch of Waitrose up there. But I think the comments here are fantastic from customer service Sharon. She talks about how it has an impact not just for the store but also for the community as well. I live in Beckenham where JC goes, and I go into Waitrose there, and he has the biggest queue of people behind his till because he's a smiley, happy, lovely young man that really wants to work there. And I think the bottom here, it says both golden rays of sunshine. Thank you, Susie. Next slide, please. So recent successes. To date, we have, from our last year of our supported internship, 14 out of 18 of those interns were offered meaningful employment, which is just a fantastic rate. From this year onwards, we've managed to find 6 learners already, and just recently we've got our 6th learner into paid employment. From last year, we've been able to contact over 40 businesses, and that's increasing each year for our exam programs. So we're going from strength to strength to strength, and we aim to get as many of our learners into secured employment as possible. Thank you.
That lagged again, Giles. I have
Yep.
clicked the next slide.
Thank you. Right, that's just come up. Okay, some tips and advice and guidance for employers who would consider working with someone with a learning difficulty for work experience or employment. I think the first thing is to get that communication going with the college or organisation you work with, and particularly the job coach and the course leader of the team. They're the lifeblood, the job coaches, because they make everything work. They help the employer, they help the learner, they feed back into the college, they feed back in and have a massive impact into the education of the learner at college too. We really like the idea of our employers kind of setting targets for our learners to develop at college, so when they go back into work next, they become more work ready. I would advise you also to kind of see what jobs you can allocate to each individual learner you have on a work experience program. Carry out certain tasks as a weekly basis, a repetitive way of developing skills. Work with the job coach to find certain things, certain activities that maybe some of your more qualified members of staff do not need to do. We call this job carving, and it's a very successful way of kind of building up a list of activities so our prospective employees can find and develop the skills they need to sustain work. I would also advocate a buddy system, maybe highlighting an existing team member that would be willing to work more closely with our learner so they can impart their knowledge, what it is to be a team member as part of that organisation. Also have that strong link with the job coach and the course leader to provide the feedback going forward, which is vital to kind of develop and sustain those skills ready for employment. And please, offer a work trial. If you're unsure, try before you buy, give it a go. From the organizations that we've worked with, they've found it incredibly valuable, not just for them personally, but for all of the associates with their organizations and the community as a whole. As we've mentioned before, it provides a wonderful experience for our learners, and it can only be a good thing and be beneficial for everybody in the community as a whole. Thank you, Susie. You can see here a few of our partners. Here you can see Bromley Local Borough, Bromley MenCap, King's College Hospital, as Rona mentioned, and RSBC. As I mentioned before, over 50, up to 50 employers we've got working with this year, and hopefully that's going to go even further.
Okay, thanks, Giles. I want to introduce you to Ian Simpson, who is the centre manager at the Pavilion Bromley at Might I Am Active, which is in Bromley Town Centre. Ian has been working with us and was also part of the roundtable event, and very kindly agreed to let us come in and interview him and also his young person Harvey, along with Harvey's job coach. Ian's just going to tell you a little bit about Harvey, and also we'd then like to hear from Harvey through a short film that we've made. Ian. Is Ian on here? Okay. Shall we just go straight to the film then? Because I think Harvey is basically says what it means to him. Susie?
My name is Deborah Baldacci. I am a job coach at London South East Colleges. I first met Harvey when he attended the Higher Needs Supported Internship. It's a programme that teach work skills, get them work ready for their work placements, and hopefully to get them meaningful paid employment.
Harvey's a success story because he's sustained and gained employment. He's been able to work through our college courses to get into work experience and then work with the employer here at Bromley Maritime Pavilion to prove he's got what it needs to get a job, and he's kept his job here and he's done exceedingly well.
My name's Harvey Kane and I work at the Pavilion in Bromley. I make drinks, I make coffees, and I clean the tables. I make slushies, and I serve people the drinks out of the fridge, and working and meeting new people.
So the learners will be on the supported internship programme for an academic year, and at the end of that, if they're successful to secure paid employment, then we will work with them to transition them into that placement and work with the employers to provide the funding for the job coach to support them moving forward.
I do think all employers should be encouraged to do the programme and get involved, because whether it's people thinking, oh, I don't want to get involved, I'm standing off because it sounds like a lot of work. It's not a lot of work. He comes with a job coach who oversees everything and plans everything with him. He comes to work, does his work and leaves at the end of the day like all employees do. And it's great to see as well, just seeing somebody grow within that role and come from the beginning of where they are and the journey that they're actually on right now and where they could potentially be as well. And being part of that, it sort of gives you a bit of pride as well. It's something that people have stayed away from. Been to meetings and the statistics are frightening. Just because somebody might have learning difficulties, then they shouldn't be, excluded from employment. And the scheme is something that gets them on the path to better things and independent.
Great, thanks, Susie. And we will. So, if you go on to the next slide. Okay, so all of these case studies, so what we've done is we have pulled together a toolkit, because as I said, that's what employers wanted. And we felt that hearing the voice of the young person and hearing the voice of the employer really, really does get across how easy it is to tap in to a workforce that can really help meet many, many employers' needs. So if you can go into the toolkit, Susie. So we will share this link with you. If it works, does it work, Susie? If we can just click on that link? No? Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. So this is what it's got on it, is it has lots of links. So it has top tips. It has a section on access to work and how you apply for access to work. So we've had a couple of employers say to us, well, I'd really like to employ somebody, but I know that a young man, for example, needs a little bit of extra help. What do I do? So there's lots of top tips and guidance on how you go about doing that. We have lots of case studies. Our job coaches have done some top tips. We've also got a section on independent travel training, because for many of people with learning disabilities, it is really about becoming more independent. And so there is a section on how you can apply to, or how the young person can apply to become travel trained, so that they really can be independent on their journey to and from work. There is a section on job coaches, which Bromley MENCAP have provided. Bromley MENCAP are an example of an organisation which has a job coach service. So job coaches can go in and support a person with disabilities, even if it's just for their induction, to get to know how to things work, to reduce the levels of anxiety. There is so much that is out there that is available. So I would really, really urge you to have a look at that toolkit afterwards. Okay, so we're moving on to our expert panel. Could you just go on to who we've got? So we have a number of professionals who are experts in the world of learning disabilities and being inclusive employers. We had 4 questions that were already submitted to us, which came really out of the roundtable event. So I'd like to introduce, we've obviously already met Rona and Giles, but we have Janet, who is the Group Chief People Officer from the London South East Education Group. Janet, are you on the call? Yeah, okay, great. We also have David James, who from Charlton Athletic Community Trust, who is a great employer and advocate of employing people with disabilities. Ian is our centre manager at My Time Active. We have Jamie Payne from the Co-op, and we also have Sally Bateman, who is the Senior Employment Consultant at Bromley Mencap. So the first question, and I don't think Ian's here, so we'll move on to the second one. Janet, this is a question for Janet. So our organisation is Disability Confident Level 1. Can you explain what that means? As I don't really see it making a big difference to our organisation. Janet, if anybody else after Janet has spoken, if anybody else wants to jump in, then please do. Janet.
Okay, hello everyone. Disability Confident Employer, it's actually a government scheme, and it's designed to encourage employers to recruit and retain disabled people. So it's a self-assessment. So we work with the Department of Work and Pensions and the Job Centre Plus in looking at how, so there's a number of commitments that we would have to sign up to. This is the level 1, and it's about the whole employee life cycle. So from advertising a role, making it more accessible, making sure that disabled people are taken care of during a selection process, offering them a guaranteed interview if they meet the minimum essential criteria. And then it kind of maps its way all the way through, but also looking at how we can make those reasonable adjustments when we've got staff who have become disabled during their employment. So it's really looking about the whole kind of enabling disabled people to work and also to develop them as well. So that's essentially what it is. It's an accreditation, so it's a self-assessment process. And once you've got it, it's valid for 3 years. There are different levels, 2 and 3, which goes into a bit more of a deep dive in terms of having other actions and also looking at other companies that you work with, so suppliers and all of that type of stuff, to ensure that they're signing up. So that's what 2 and 3 does. So yeah, happy to take any further questions.
Thanks, Janet. I don't know whether anybody's got any questions, but I don't know whether anyone else from the panel wants to mention anything about Disability Confident. Yeah, is there anybody else in the panel? No? The
other thing I would like to also mention is, apart from being a disability confident employer, there is something about the wider EDI and looking at your own workforce and understanding who is disabled and making sure that they're disclosing that information so that you're also taking proactive actions, because disability, you know, you've got hidden disabilities and obviously physical disabilities and stuff like that as well. So making sure that you're also monitoring the data that is coming through from staff and working with, you know, providers like occupational health, getting advice, using access to work, as Liz has said earlier, in terms of helping with some of those reasonable adjustments, and also making the workplace flexible as well. So if they have to reduce their hours or be redeployed into other roles as well. So you would do other things as a good employer in terms of the EDI kind of agenda as well.
Thanks, Janet. And I would say as well, on the toolkit, we do have interview and application tips as well, that is part of that toolkit. We've had a question. Janet, could you say the difference that it has made to your organisation in terms of staff morale, role, modelling for learners, etc.? And that's come from Teresa.
I would say, so obviously there's two parts to it. So there's acquiring talent into the organization and making all those, making sure that you're signed up to the statements and that individuals are able to ask for a guaranteed interview if they've declared a disability, but also during the onboarding stage as well. But I think in terms of existing staff and staff morale, I mean, I think it's really about, and if we're talking about disabled staff in particular, it's really enabling them to continue to remain in the workplace if they do have a disability, and making sure that the support is there. So the support from either the line manager or HR or occupational health, access to work, all of those different kind of support mechanisms that can be dialed into if an individual becomes disabled. And that helps with staff morale in terms of retaining them in the organisation, and also reporting on our data as well, and making that obvious. And what some of the things that we have done to encourage disclosure is also to update the language that we have on. So we've got an HR system where staff can actually report whether they've had a disability. So it's making it more clear in terms of what disability means and the different forms and types, so that we can get good information and then we can act on it.
Thank you, Janet. And as I say, when you get the link to that, maybe we could put the link in the chat, Susie. So there are lots of questions and lots of tips on there. So Jamie, we have Jamie from Co-op. Is Jamie on the call?
Good morning, Liz.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. So Co-op is really successful at employing people with disabilities, and I know that over 50% of your young people that we've worked with you have been offered permanent role over the last 6 years. So it's really about what does Co-op do? How do you do it so well? And also, what's your vision for Co-op and your inclusive approach in the future? Jane.
Yeah, no problem, Liz. So I think in terms of Co-op, I think it's top down from us as a business. Obviously, we're really into sort of ethical recruitment, doing the right thing by our communities, doing the right thing by our people. It's sort of ingrained in sort of the core beliefs that we have as a business. I think that really helps from the CEO downwards. You know, there's a real ambition to have an inclusive approach to our recruitment across the piece. That really sort of feeds down through the channels of leadership within the business. And I think it's a mixture of everything. Obviously, it's having that sponsorship from the top, but what we look at sort of, you know, the way we bring people on board, the assessment materials we use, the psychometrics we use, the adverts, the social media campaigns we run, as well as obviously the partnerships like we have with Bromley College, MenCap, Prince's Trust, those kind of organisations that really sort of we invest that time with those partners to understand us as a business and what we do, to make sure that people coming through you know, are of the right sort of culture and characteristics as a fit within that sort of business, really, that business model. So I think we recruit very much on behaviours. We don't recruit on skill sets. So I think that's really important. We identify opportunities where those candidates with potential disabilities and underrepresented groups can come through, where they can be offered the most support, where those managers are best placed. So we really sort of focus on making sure we put them into stores where they don't have recruitment issues or have sort of low crime rates, to really give those candidates the best opportunities to succeed. And then when we get them on board, we really try to look after them, give them a sort of structured program where they sort of pick up the duties at their own pace. And we try and keep that adjustable. We try not to have a one size fits all, because, you know, I'm speaking to the choir here. I'm preaching to the choir, no, but in terms of that, everybody's an individual. So I think it's really important we understand those individual needs and build that sort of program around. So some people, it might just be they want some work experience. Some people might be more of a full-time placement. Some people, it will come into a sort of full-time job. as part of our application process, linking into the previous question around disability confident, we make sure that anybody that ticks that box is guaranteed an interview with Co-op. So I think as a culture, it really sort of feeds through. And I think the other thing we do really well and really heavily within the business is the training and education piece for our hiring managers. So we break down those stigmas around it's not possible, how can we have someone with that disability working, it just doesn't work. Actually it does, and here's the adjustments we can make to make that happen. Or perhaps we just think wider around, can we put them in a different store? If somebody needs a lift, it may not be that store because it's an old building, it necessarily hasn't got those sort of functionalities, but there might be a store down the road that has got that function where we can put it in. So I think it's being adaptable to the person's needs, but I think we're really big on the education piece around inclusivity. I've run 2 or 3 training sessions last year with our hiring managers across the business, talking about bias and conscious and non-conscious bias, and breaking down those barriers around inclusive thinking. So and having those champions in the field that represent that actually sometimes do some of our polling interviews for us, and we'll recruit with inclusivity in mind for the patch rather than individual line managers. So just some of the things we've sort of done and do as a sort of culture, but operationally as well, to make sure we're not alienating. And obviously we're tracking the data. One of my jobs is to run that disability data on a quarterly basis to make sure that nobody is getting filtered out through that process, whether it be our process or whether it be the technology or the assessment tools we're using, that you know, we're increasing that. We're increasing the applications we're getting from those candidates with a disability, as well as making sure they're not getting filtered out at any point at that stage. So that's sort of, I guess, a quick overview of all the pieces we sort of get involved with to make sure we're as inclusive as we possibly can be.
Jamie, that's amazing. Thank you. And thank you to Co-op as well for really sort of like leading the charge. And, you know, it would be fascinating to actually record one of your training sessions, and we could put that on our website, so that organisations can hear the kinds of things that you're doing in your training. So thank you, and thank you for coming along today.
No problem.
Has anyone got any questions? Sorry, Giles, and any comments?
Yeah, firstly, I'll put an applause up there because Jamie's just really nailed it with what we've been developing over a number of years. I've worked with the Co-op for about 20 years, and what we've done recently has just been fantastic. What Jamie's enabled is a 10-week experience for our learners to go in the internship, and if they are able to make that level, they get offered a job with Co-op and they get supported after it as well, which is fantastic. I just want to say thanks to Jamie, and he's also offered to come in with other colleagues to the college to speak to our learners directly about what it is to work in the Co-op. Or Co-op as a career, but also to talk about employment in general and about what it is to work in retail and what your CV should look like, all the things that you need. So again, this is a really good example of partnership working, and a big thanks.
Has anybody else got a question for Jamie? No? Okay, moving on, Sally. So we've got Sally Bateman here from Bromley Mencap. Sally, we've had a question. We've interviewed, this has come through from an employer. We interviewed a person with autism and we really want to offer them the job, but think they could really benefit from some extra help to get them through the induction and have someone with them to learn the job. Somebody has mentioned access to work, but what is it and how do I apply for it? Sally.
Okay, hi, hello everyone. So at Bromley Mencap, we have a job coaching agency in place. We use this job coaching agency predominantly for supporting the high needs supported internship that we partner with the college. But if an individual approaches us or an employer approaches us, then we can organise access to work. So access to work is funding from the DWP, which pays for job coaching support to go in and support the individual with, as you said, Liz, an induction, or just really settling them into the role. Or it could be a bit more long term. They give support up to 26 weeks. So it just really depends on the individual and what support they need in their new job. So yeah, so in any setting, And we've also supported people recently with disciplinaries and other things like that in the workplace. So it's quite wide with the support that it gives.
Brilliant. And all the contact details and Bromley MenCap's contact details are all on the toolkit. Any other questions for Sally? Any employers that are thinking about, you know, haven't in the past, but thinking that maybe they've got some people that would really benefit from access to work? We can always ask questions later, and we will provide everybody's contact details afterwards. Okay, so we've got David James from Charlton Athletic Football Club Community Trust. David, we know that you do lots and lots of employing people with disabilities, and we know that you recently linked with TOCA Social, who are at the O2, to share best practice. Now, obviously, TOCA Social are another football organisation, but how do you see your role in partnering with other organisations at a more formal level to share best practice with different industries? Because of course the people that are on here today are almost sort of like we're preaching to the converted, but what we really need to do is we need to go out and speak to employers that haven't thought about employing people with disabilities. You know, how can we maximize the partnerships that you've got going? David?
Good morning all. I was feeling the pressure. We've gone the whole call without anyone being on mute, so I was conscious of not doing so. So good morning. We presented this time last year roughly on the sort of work we'd done, and that was one of the case studies that was around our Charlton Upbeats team, Down syndrome, sort of long-standing Down syndrome football team, that was, like I said, captured as a case study, and you know, we've had another year of those guys being linked in with the football club, working every match day, running the Upbeats kitchen, and that's been a real success, and some real good examples today from Bromley My Time and the co-op there. You know, I feel where we do our bit, but that feels like such a sort of long-standing and real sort of well-rounded offer. Since last year, the partnership more recently with TOCA Social is proving really successful. It's how do you describe it if you've not been there? It's sort of an interactive football sports mixed with gaming and dining experience at the O2. So it's a fantastic. We found out by taking some of our groups there, and we've been there with staff as well since as well, for really, really good experience. And it's a busy place to go. So on the back of taking projects there, we sort of formed a bit of a partnership. We've taken a lot of our disability provisions there as guests, to enjoy the experience, and that led to a conversation around, well, there's lots of our participants, lots of people working within the Upbeats kitchen, for example, that there are those transferable skills. So to your point around football, it is, that is a football experience, and there's an obvious link there. But I think the others have touched on it as well. It's those transferable skills. So we've got young people and adults that have got a fantastic skill set, front of house, all things catering, and can do a really good job as with the My Time example there, within that environment. So that's going really well. We've placed some young people there. TOCA have been fantastic, and that's proven really well. It's proven a success, and certainly something that we'll look to do more of. I think in terms of getting buy-in from other organisations, I suppose what always works for us, because we run a range of disability provision. So ability counts, I've mentioned the Upbeats, short breaks in Greenwich and Bexley, mental health programs, wherever possible, wherever we can engage with an existing or new company employer, and get them out as part of sort of maybe CSR onto our provisions, that wins them over, because they'll come and support a project. They'll have staff that come in and sort of see the value in the programs we run. They then go back into the day job, whether that's, we work with ITRM and Andrews Air Conditioning, regular cleaning, they're partners of ours, partners of the football club. they then go and champion us within their workplace. So then it's an easier conversation about can we have a conversation about some of our participants and come in securing work experience, supported internships, paid employment within a setting that we've already got on side. So yeah, it's not easy. There's some real good examples. A lot of what Giles touched on in his presentation earlier on in terms of top tips. If you're doing anywhere near half or all of those bullet points, then you've got a good chance. But yeah, there's lots to learn from today. But like you said, it is sort of preaching to the converted a little bit. So it's about getting that message out there.
Thanks, David. Does anyone have any questions for David? Or does anyone want to add anything from our panel? I don't know whether Rona or Giles, you want to add anything?
Just to really kind of cover all the sentiments that have been said, it's really heartening to hear that everyone's coming from the same angle here and all working together. It's good news stories throughout, and just if we can push it forward, we can do so much with this.
Brilliant, thanks, Giles. I know we've got Lorraine from Bromley Council here. Lorraine.
Hello there. Not a question really, but just a comment. My name is Lorraine. I'm from Bromley Council, not from the HR team. I'm from the economic development team, and we're looking to run a campaign to promote good work standards across the borough, and we want to share some examples of some case studies and share some good practice. So I've heard some really great stuff this morning, so I'm really excited about how we can support employers in the borough and share some of the good work that's going on. So yeah, we will be looking to prepare a new web page on our website and sort of run a social media campaign on businesses that currently provide good work standards and have good practices, and try to encourage others to follow suit. So there's some really great stuff here. So I'll touch base with people offline, if that's okay, to pick up separately some of the initiatives, and hopefully we can promote those through our channels.
Yeah, of course, that's amazing, Lorraine. And I know that Bromley want to become a more inclusive employer. And we've had conversations about setting up supported internships within the council. And I know I think we've got Kay on here who is leading on the SEND sort of like supported internship program. So it's quite an exciting time. And it's just, I think the thing is that we are certainly all pushing against open doors, and people sort of like employers are saying, yeah, I really want to do something, but they don't really know how to. So it's almost sort of like converting employers and, to really sort of like maximise what the benefits are. Emma, hi Emma.
Hi everybody, Emma Sampson from London Borough of Bexley. We actually deliver a supported employment service called Bexley Twofold, and we're supporting nearly 70 adults with a learning disability to sustain paid employment across about 40 different employers in Bexley. So I'm just reaching out to you, Lorraine, just to say that if you're looking for some guidance around that, we've got a well-established provision for supported employment. So from a local authority, borough to borough, support network, would be really happy to talk to you about that.
That's great. Thanks very much, Emma.
And Emma, just if you want to add anything to the website, to the toolkit, that would be amazing as well.
Absolutely.
So when we send it out, your comments would be invaluable, so that we keep making it relevant, and also to share it with your employers as well.
Yeah, sure.
So that's excellent. So that's a real win. And I think what's really, not that we did this on purpose, but the SEND review has come out today from the government, so it's quite timely. So this is looking and especially focusing on post-16 and post-16 provision and supported internships and employment and everything like that. So I think that that's quite exciting, and I think we need to maximise on that as well, and really work with our employers. Any other comments from anybody else? Any questions? Because I know we've got on the next bit, Susie, we've got questions. Go back up to over to you, questions. Has anyone got any comments about this morning and the session that they want to share? This is your chance. No? Should we go to the last page? Because everybody likes to have 15 minutes back of their day to go and make that cup of tea. So if we go to the last page, Susie. And really, this is all about, so what are we going to do from here? So today is great, and we've had some good conversations, and it's been recorded, but it's the so what. What do we want to do moving on from here? So what we really want is we want you, as if you are an employer that is on here today, we want you to come and say, yes, we want to be an inclusive employer, help me, tell me what I need to do. If you are at employer network events, we want you to question your peers, question your other organisations, other employers that are out there, and say to them, are you an inclusive employer? What we want to do is, if you are an employer that can you offer a work placement? Can you take on if your organisation is big enough, can you set up a supported internship? Can you come and add a case study? We want to build this toolkit, and we want to get it everywhere. What we want to do is we want to share what those benefits are of hiring young people with disabilities, so that we can get more and more people into employment. This is really about, I think this is just about the start. There's lots and lots of different organisations that are out there that can help. There's lots of different organisations that already have lots of information, but it's really about getting involved and coming away from this and saying, what is the one thing that you're going to do differently in your organisation, in your daily role, that will make a difference to people with disabilities. So that's it for today. As I say, we will send out all the links to you. And that's the link to the toolkit there. And I just really want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to our panel for stepping in. And nobody was on mute, so well done, everybody. You all came off mute, as you said, David. That was a real challenge. You didn't want to let the team down. Thanks to everyone, and also thanks to my colleague Susie Good, who has been awesome at pulling this all together. Have a lovely day, and have 20 minutes back of your day. All right. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.